Hey guys, it's Neech. So Iceland wrapped up the second season of Dark Side of the Ring, and the season finale discussed Owen Hart and Owen Hart's death, and you knew it would be sad. I think anybody who thought it wasn't going to be sad just has never really paid attention to this whole thing. It started, you heard Martha talking, and I just want to say this. I want to make this clear to everybody. No one can ever say or ever tell Martha Hart how to feel. So I've heard people in the past, like even the WWE lawyers, like trying to say that, she wanted extra money or stuff like that. But I'm just going to say this. The WWE's lawyers or the WWE, whoever is involved, could say all they want, that they tried to do the right thing after he died. They tried to do this, they tried to do that. That may be true to a degree, but it doesn't change the fact that this man at 34 years old plummeted to his death. That's the reality of the situation, that no matter what you do, you're not bringing that guy back, and you're not bringing that guy back to his family, and his family had to suffer for years. So I don't think anybody could ever criticize her for any way she felt, because this is a loss that she suffered along with her children that will last with them for the rest of their lives. You got to see Owen's son, and boy, I'll tell you, is he a dead ringer for Owen? I mean, he looked like a younger version of Owen, and he looks just like him. And I really admire the son, because he has been very supportive to his mother. You could tell too that he has no love for WWE whatsoever. He supports his mother's decision that they would never allow him in the Hall of Fame because they don't want the WWE profiting. You just saw the hurt in his eyes, too, because, he was a little older. You saw the daughter, Athena, talk. It was very hard for Athena to really talk a lot about him because she was only 3 years old, and I am sure that there's just really no memories of him that she has, and that's unfortunate about it. But Oj was almost 8 years old. He got to know him a lot better, and you'd always heard the stories how Owen would always bring Oj to the airport with him before he took off on a flight, and then, somebody would bring Oj back. But Owen wanted as much time with his children as he could, so he'd always take his son with him to the airport. And, you watch the tapes that they're making, the family home movies and stuff, and you could just see the love that's there. I mean, the love that Owen had for his children. And that's what breaks my heart more than anything. And that's what's always broken my heart, is he never got to watch his kids grow up. And those poor kids, they never got to have a father, and they got cheated. No matter what anybody says, they got cheated. I thought Jim Ross, anybody who doesn't like Jim Ross either should be ashamed of themselves. Jim Ross is one of the real good guys in wrestling, and you could just see the hurt in his eyes. 21 years later, he's still hurting from this, and you heard him say it's the worst moment in his career. The poor guy is told that Owen died, and he has about 8 seconds to announce it. You just find out this guy died, and they're giving you 8 seconds to announce his death. The more I think about it, there's always been debate about this, but the WWF at the time, they should have never continued that show. Really, when you think about it, how do you have a show go on when one of the guys that works for your company has just plummeted to his death? He's pretty much dead. He died. I don't know how you continue that show. I really don't. You heard The Godfather and D'Lo Brown talk, and you could see the pain in their eyes, too. How much hurt was there. I mean, you could see it. I mean, D'Lo Brown was definitely shaken up. And then one thing I have never saw, and I wonder if Mike agrees with this, too, because it's the first time I ever saw it, and it was last night, is I saw Jim Cornette break down. You saw him get choked up. I have never seen Jim Cornette ever break down, and that's how much it affected him. And don't forget, Jim Cornette managed Owen for a good 3 years. So, I mean, there was definitely probably pranks made, and there's a bond there. I've never heard anybody say that they dislike Owen Hart. I never have. To feel for everybody involved just how bad that was, and make no mistake about it, guys, I do think Vince McMahon felt bad, and I don't think that he's a heartless person when it comes to something like this. I just don't think they handled everything the proper way like they should have. But then again, who am I to say that? It's just my opinion. The other thing, too, is It's amazing how negligent the riggers were, though. That's the guys really I blame more than anybody. Now, you could blame the WWF, too, because they hired them, no doubt about it. But those riggers, I mean, you saw Martha show you the pin that he was attached to. I mean, looking at that thing, I don't even know if an 8-year-old kid who maybe weighs about 60 pounds could have something attached to them like that, and that thing that snapped. And that's the other thing, too. I don't want to hear this nonsense that Owen accidentally hit the release button on something, or he did this, or he did that. Let me tell you right now, he was not put up there properly, and that's basically why he fell to his death. It had nothing, and I don't ever want to hear anybody say, ironically, it might have been his own fault. No, it wasn't. He didn't ask to die. He was asked to do something for his job, and he did it. And like I said, back to Jim Ross, I like how truthful he was throughout the whole thing. He even said after the Montreal screw job that if you think they didn't give him a raise because of that whole screw job thing, then you're not paying attention. Or he said they would be liars if they said that wasn't the case. Interestingly enough, I was surprised Brett wasn't a part of this thing. Brett being Owen's brother, and they were very close brothers, I thought he would have been a part of this. I don't know if he chose not to take part in it, or maybe Martha didn't want the Hart family involved. But then again, I mean, you had wrestlers that took part in it. You had The Godfather, you had D'Lo Brown, you had Jim Cornette, Jim Ross. So I really don't know why Brett wasn't involved in this. It's a shame, too, because it sounds like Oj has never gotten to know his uncles or his aunts. It sounds like that whole family just kind of fell apart when Owen died, and that's the unfortunate thing about the whole thing. I read Martha's book, and I mean, I don't think there's any ill will with Martha towards Brett, because she said from day one Brett was the most supportive. Brett went with her to the funeral home. You know, he supported her. So I really don't think there's any ill will, but I do know as time went on, Brett hasn't liked how Martha has tried to erase Owen's wrestling memory. That part I do know, and I do know Brett didn't like the way Martha talked to his parents towards the end of their lives. You know, Martha kind of went off on Helen before she died. It was a big mess. At the time, it's just so hard to really even fault anybody for how they really reacted. You know, the Harts lost their son. Brett lost his brother. Martha lost her husband. Oj lost his father. I mean, you look at everything about it. Everybody was affected by this, and I do believe Owen's siblings loved him. I definitely don't think that they just took his death for granted or anything like that. I really don't. That family was always close until really when that Montreal screw job happened. Brett felt like some of those guys tried to make money off Vince and they weren't loyal to him. And then when Owen died, Martha felt like they weren't being loyal to her. And that's really when that family fell apart. But that family was really close for a long time. I mean, you would see videos and they were all happy together and they were all a close-knit group. You never heard anything negative about that family whatsoever. They really were tight, and it's a shame that death kind of caused a big rift between that family. I bet as you watched that last night, you're asking yourself, did that give you closure? It gives you closure in the sense that you know whose fault it really was in the end. And again, it's the rigger's fault, in my opinion, but it doesn't give you closure because I'll never get over his death. That'll always be the worst wrestling death ever. I mean, what Chris Benoit did to his wife and son is the worst. Like, that was horrible, and that's something I'll never get over. I was a fan of Owen Hart's. I've always been a fan of the Hart families, and just the way he died. Like, it's like one of those things. You always remember where you were when you heard the news, and I have never forgotten about his death. I could still think of that. Whether Raw did that, whether Vince McMahon did that for ratings or what, that Raw tribute was an excellent tribute, and it was so sad. I mean, you saw guys come out of character. You saw guys you never thought would ever, sobbed, and they sobbed like crazy. I mean, Deborah, I always felt the worst for Jeff Jarrett and Deborah McMichael because they were close to Owen last year. They teamed with him. They were around him, and you just saw the hurt in their eyes more than anybody. They were really affected by it. And that's one thing, anybody could say what they want about Jeff Jarrett, but when it came to Owen, Jeff Jarrett was a great friend to Owen. Deborah was a great friend to Owen, too. I mean, they really were, and I felt so bad for him the most during that Monday Night Raw tribute. The Viceland did a great job as usual. Like I said, I'm very happy that Owen's son is doing really well. He's a lawyer. I think the daughter's still a little young. I want to say she's probably 23, 24, so she's probably still in school doing, maybe graduate school. But it's good to see, like, his son has become a great man. At least his son became a great man. He's doing great things, and I know Owen would be proud of that. And I think his daughter's doing great things as well. The unfortunate thing is his daughter's just never going to really remember him. She remembered that one moment at the zoo, but other than that, her memories are just really not there, and that's the sad part. And again, Martha's never remarried. I don't know if she will, but you can never criticize her because one thing, no matter what, she was loyal to Owen, no matter what. She never turned on Owen. She never used money to profit. She's done that Owen Hart Foundation, so you can never get on her for that. And I just thought it was really a good documentary, or a good tribute, whatever you want to call it, a good story, but it was sad too. It really was, and maybe the saddest one we've seen so far. So it'll be interesting to see what you guys think. Keep the faith and have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.